Surprise, surprise. It's going to be hotter this summer than it was last summer. And then the next summer, it's going to be even hotter. And the next summer, even hotter still. As climate change worsens and worsens and the earth gets hotter and hotter, uh, we're pretty much past the peak of being able to actually reverse climate change. Now, the only thing we can try to do is to mitigate the effects as much as possible, and that's not really going to work.
Well, get ready for an unusually hot summer. Officials from the National Weather Service and the CDC are already warning Americans about record high temperatures in the coming months, thanks to the seasonal change of the La Nina climate pattern. And with these rising temperatures, there's also a higher risk of wildfires and the possibility of droughts. So joining me now is Scott Dance. He is a climate reporter for the Washington Post. So Scott, I remember last year when we were dealing with all these sort of heat waves around the country, we were sort of searching for new ways to talk about heat because we had talked about it so much. And I noticed that our language has changed over the years. Before it was just the temperature. Then it became the humidex. Then we were talking about I think the wet bulb test. Can you talk about how we've kind of changed our understanding of the way heat impacts us?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. There's all these different measures of the ways heat can affect us. Obviously, a humid hot day is worse than a dry hot day. It's harder for your body to cool itself. So, yeah, these different measures all pull in different things. The wet bulb temperature you mentioned,
Yeah.
like that includes sun angle, and are you in the shade? Because obviously that also makes a difference. So, yeah, we've just the CDC and the National Weather Service have been, working on ways to help people's understanding of that, because we are seeing, so many more heat waves. We are expected to see, given this switch from El Nino to La Nina, a likelihood of a hotter than normal summer for most of the United States this summer.
Yeah, and I think
And that's going to mean a lot more wildfires, which means a lot more carbon in the air, and it's still just going to get hotter and hotter. Yeah, the wet bulb thing that they were talking about, that is when uh, it is so humid outside that you cannot cool off via sweating, and you just end up dying due to it being too hot and too wet.
we used to always think of as like a heat-related illness or even a heat-related death was always just about the temperature. But now we're taking into account all these other things, because when you have higher temperatures, you have the potential for more wildfires. Everyone remembers the wildfires in Canada and the impact that it had on our air down here. Can you talk about what officials are planning for, not just in terms of the heat, but all the other things that happen when you have record high temperatures?
Yeah, I mean, they are the National Weather Service is introducing this new heat tool called Heat Risk this summer, and so it's been used in the Western states. People on the West Coast might already be familiar with this, but it's basically something that factors in, like you said, all these different sort of elements of how sunny is it going to be, how humid is it going to be, and it gives you this sort of color coded scale so that people don't have to, you know, pay as close attention maybe to those little details themselves, but just know, like, when this heat wave hits, how bad is it going to be here compared to what we're used to, compared to what we've seen so far this summer? Because heat acclimation, that has a big impact on how we deal with it.
Huh.
But also, yes, the intensity of, not just the temperatures, but how sunny, how humid, how long it's going to last. With La Nina, we tend to see, some people might be familiar with the term heat dome, which is
Yeah.
basically an area of high pressure that just keeps it sunny, keeps that southern flow of air, hot air, moving into whatever region you're in, and it can last for days. It basically, is a very stationary weather feature. So
Yeah.
we're certainly looking